again, this is Rogue, known as Rogue Doodle and Rogue Girls 20, depending on what website you go to. And I'm doing another showcase of Clip Studio, otherwise known as Manga Studio. I forgot two brushes with the first video, so I felt like I needed to rectify that with finishing off with the last two, but also to kind of start a bit my process so I can actually show a few other things. But I think before I get into how I do my stuff, I'll also show how to make custom brushes, because you can actually do that in this one. Paint Tool Sai has a nice little deal where you can slide stuff. This one you can tweak a lot of stuff with, so they really give you a lot of capability, just like what I mentioned with the first video. So the last tools that I forgot to mention is pencil and pastel. And I actually do use the pencil as actually what I use the sketch first. So there's a few brushes with this one. There's dark pencil, as you can kind of see, which kind of similar to how the markers are. It is where if you just go over it, it will make it a little darker, but not as dramatic as the marker, and will thin out too. It is pressure sensitive. There's even lighter pencil, which, as you can tell, kind of gives more of a soft look, but it's more mono, so it gets a nice one. There's also mechanical pencil. When I do traditional, I end up using mechanical pencil for a lot of my finer stuff, but I usually actually start with a light blue. That's when I do traditional. Digital's a whole different ball field, and I will admit it took me a while to get used to digital. That was the one thing that I had to get over the most, because as traditional, I can do something quick. I can make a nice little piece of a nice little portrait illustration within about 20-30 minutes. But digital, it takes me a lot longer. So, it will definitely kind of keep you in check in a way. But don't be discouraged. I really recommend don't be discouraged. It's just a new field to try out and experiment with. You have a lot of tools available with the digital, and nicely you can fix a mistake, which you can't do in the traditional because you just kind of have to live with it. So you're able to tweak things much better with digital, and use some mediums that you probably wouldn't normally have access to. And I love to paint, but to be honest, it's expensive. So, digital is cheaper in the long run. I mean, shoot, my pencils alone. If I had a coupon, that thing would have been over 80 some dollars for all my nice pencils. But out of these pencils, there's definitely a variety. This is color pencil, so just naturally kind of gets a little liner deal, but definitely gets darker the more you overlay it, and to kind of show. It kind of does more of an overlay on the color, doesn't blend. Same as to be said with the other ones. Just kind of how you expect real pencils to be. And here's rough pencil, which is, of course, more textured. Kind of overlays. This is actually the pencil I use when I start sketching, is the rough, because it actually does feel like a real pencil. So to me, it feels more natural to use the rough pencil. As you can tell, I started a whole bunch of layers, but that's fine. teach their own on that. Then there's pastels. Several different kinds. There's chalk, which is how you would imagine it be. And kind of just more of an overlay, doesn't really blend. Then there's pastel. So, and that was at the 50, so let's do, yeah, as 100, it's still rather thin with the pastel. It does give a really nice texture. And overlays. It still kind of goes over, so. And then there's crayon. Everybody remembers using the crayon. And charcoal, which I have to tip my hat to the people that can use charcoal on traditional, because oh my goodness, it is not a forgiving medium. And also, for those that try out charcoal, make sure you get an oil-based soap. It will save your hands. And more like an olive deal. You just, or castor oil, those will help out dramatically. But, yeah. And that's noise, so almost reminiscent of MS Paint. But those were the last two ones I was missing. So, with those done, I'm going to show how to make your custom brush. And this was learned by trial and error, so like I said, mentioned in the earlier one, definitely feel free to experiment. Trial and error is a-okay. You need to figure out what works best for you. And, you know, the only way to do that is to go and do it. So I'm going to use watercolor because I love the watercolors. I cannot say that enough. I adore them. So usually what happens with trying to make a custom, you first just do a right click on one of them, and you'll see that there's several options. You can as I can't speak English for a few seconds, you can duplicate, which actually you take some of the tools here and you replicate, which is really decent if you want to say, well, let's do it with the dense and just kind of show here. So you know when you duplicate or even start a custom, this will pop up first. So just kind of where you can rename it. You can also rename it later. But it kind of gives you a little deal where, yeah, direct icon kind of shows you all sorts of little different icons you can use to kind of, you know, set it so you know what it is. Using this one, I'm going to show this end. So that changes the size. Now you can change the amount of paint, and you can use it on the other ones. Sometimes duplicate is like if you prefer a certain style and just keep it as normal. This is changing with less amount of paint on a, I was starting with a dense as my format, so even less. As you can kind of tell that there is a difference. As you see there, it really starts to blend. It's still kind of more of a sharper, or if I do more paint, it doesn't blend as much. So you can always change that. Then there's density of paint. So I changed the density, and you can tell it's much more transparent. I mean, it takes several strokes for it to really pop. It's almost bottom right there. And then let's go full density. And then there's color stretch. Oh, here's also the other deal. You can change a bit the tilt or some of the details, like with pressure, how much you can do. I normally don't mess around with it because I'm afraid I'm gonna have it do something I don't like and then not know how to get back to normal. This is a high color stretch. You can kind of tell where in the middle it's definitely better, but the edges it's more transparent. So it just really depends on how you like your stuff. And you can also change the hardness. So usually I start mine with pretty hard just so I don't have to press pretty hard on my pen. And you can tell I could just do very light. But then if you change it to low, it is softer. If you really kind of want it to pop, you need to press a little harder, which I don't like doing. But it also gives it more of a softer appearance. So that's sharper, this is more blur. And then there's stabilization. I usually put mine high. You can actually change the value by number. I mean, this is 15. You can actually go higher than that. But 15 works just fine for me. So, as you can kind of tell, we're going to do a straight line. So those are just on the fly changes that you can make to a brush. And you can always hit this one, revert settings back to current, so that changes back to the initial. Okay, so that's with duplicating one and just kind of changing whatever you want. Now you can also delete them. If you decide you don't like them, you can get rid of them. Or you can also create a custom. So I'm going to say experiment 2. So this is starting with a watercolor. You can change how much of it, so you can go really transparent or really thick. You can also combine, which is actually kind of similar to just how you can do with layers. I mean, you can have as a glow, which the glow will only work if there is something on it. Overlay, same with that. And even burns are the same. Multiplicity. Like how sharp. And this is where you can actually go with shaping. So if you want to use something different, you don't necessarily have to start in the watercolor section or the oil. You can go wherever. This will help you give your shape. Brush tip. You can change its initial hardness, its thickness. And that's primarily with the paint. So the less thick I do, it's kind of more solid. And then there's direction of applying. Now this changes kind of how it is. So normally it's set at horizontal, but you can go vertical, which kind of gives it a different flavor to it. You can even change its direction. So really useful, especially if you want a more calligraphy effect. Direction, changing that would be the best. And you can even do based upon direction of pen axis. So we're gonna put direction of pen. And then brush density. So kind of very similar. It can be really vibrant or almost transparent. And that's just on the tip. And then you have spray effect, which particle size, and that's if you want it. You don't have to have this. As you can tell, it makes it a little more cloudy. Then there's stroke. Which usually affects it if you're doing more of a particle. But in this case, it's just normal. And there's other deals here, like so if darken. As you can tell, it shows it here. So you have it on, just kind of helps blend it. But if you do it off, then it goes otherwise. And that's what the mix does. And texture, I mean, you can have one, which there's different options available. And border of watercolor. So you can actually have this little interesting effect. And sometimes it can seem a little too sharp. And even you can set how it would look erased. Corrections, stabilization, post-correction. As you can see, where it just kind of looks a little squiggly than otherwise. Starting to end. So if you select a specific length or a specific percentage, Valley head from min to 100% and heads to min at the end. So it kind of gives it a longer line if you want. And then there is anti-overflow. So these are all different ways that you can make a custom brush. Let's take a look of just with me messing around. We'll kind of give it a neon. Really good for like a amoeba or something. That's just making a custom brush. So that is that. So, with the brushes. So cover the ones I was missing and how to make a custom. So, pretty nifty. And to kind of show the beginning of a process, I'm actually going to go back in the pencil and just show you kind of how I do things. Just only a little. I'll actually start a video with the beginning. And actually working it on it. As you tell, this is how the rough looks. Got a little more anime look there. Which I actually used to draw anime quite a bit. And that's that. Just going to show a little quick deal of how some of these brushes can work together. So you can get some awesome effects out of this. So thanks for watching. I'm going to be posting this video here very shortly. Even though you're watching it, as you can tell, I'm starting these things. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe. I'm going to try to do more of these. Maybe post some other things of my works when I work on them, kind of talking about what I do, certain things about them. So the more subscribers, the more chances I'm going to be making videos. So the more the merrier. But I do hope, regardless, that you all have a wonderful day.